We usually think of the brain as, well, the creator of everything, right? Every thought, every feeling, our whole reality. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if the brain isn't a generator at all, but more like a gateway, a filter for a consciousness that's way, way bigger? All right, so let's get into it. And we're going to start with something that just feels, well, undeniable. The fact that our entire inner world, I mean everything, our thoughts, our feelings, who we are, it all seems totally tied up with that 3-pound chunk of stuff in our heads. I mean, the proof for this connection is everywhere, isn't it? And it's super personal. We've all heard stories, or maybe even experienced it. A hard knock to the head can completely mess with your memory. It can even knock you out cold. So yeah, it's pretty clear that physical stuff happening to the brain has a huge impact on the mind. And it's not just about getting hit on the head either. Science has shown us this connection in incredible detail. Think about it. Something as simple as a cup of coffee can make your thoughts feel sharper, or how certain chemicals can completely change the way you see the world. It really shows you how even a tiny tweak in brain chemistry can totally transform the way you think. So all these clues seem to point to this one really powerful idea, almost an equation, you could say, that thought is just a function of the brain, that consciousness is just what the brain does. And for a lot of people, that's not just a theory, it's a fact. But right when you feel like you've got it all figured out, this really big question pops up. And it's a question that kind of shakes that very foundation. And the question is, if thought is just a function of the brain, then what happens when the brain decays? How could consciousness possibly stick around after that? The whole mystery really comes down to what we mean by that one little word, function. See, function isn't as simple as it sounds. It can actually mean at least two totally different things. You've got the productive function, and then you've got the transmissive function. Okay, so the productive idea is what most people think of. The brain makes consciousness simple as that. It's like a tea kettle producing steam. If you smash the kettle, no more steam. End of story. But then there's this other idea, the transmissive function. This one says the brain doesn't make consciousness. Instead, it lets consciousness pass through it, kind of like light going through a colored piece of glass or a prism. If the glass shatters, well, the light is still there, isn't it? So this second way of looking at it, this transmissive view, it asks us to imagine the brain not as a factory churning out thoughts, but as a filter. It suggests there's this huge, maybe infinite consciousness already out there, and our brain is like a valve or a lens that tunes it down, focusing into the little beam of light that we call me. And if you start thinking this way, going from production to transmission, well, it changes absolutely everything. It completely reframes how you think about yourself and, well, everything else. The poet Shelley had this amazing line that really captures it. He said, "Life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity." So in this way of thinking, that white radiance is this pure universal consciousness. And our brains, we're each just one of those unique colored pieces of glass, giving that pure light our own specific tint. So you gotta ask, what is this filter even made of? And the really wild part of this idea is that it's not some separate thing. The brain isn't a barrier made of something else. It's more like it's the physical picture of consciousness putting a limit on itself. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. What's the whirlpool made of? It's not made of anything different from the river, right? It's just water. It's the river itself, tying itself into this temporary, local pattern. It has a shape, a form, but it's never separate from the flow. And that's the idea here. The brain is like a knot that this universal consciousness ties in itself. It's this incredibly complex, beautiful tangle in the stream of awareness. And that tangle is what gives us the feeling of being an individual me. Okay, I know this might all be sounding a little out there, a bit abstract, but this idea of the brain as a filter, it actually lines up really well with experiences a lot of us have had, especially when we're talking about things like mindfulness or deep meditation. Think about those moments of real presence, when you're meditating or maybe just lost in nature. The constant chatter in your head, the part that's always labeling things, telling stories, worrying about me, it gets quiet. And when it does, something else comes through. It's a different kind of awareness, isn't it? You're still experiencing everything, but maybe without this sense of an I doing the experiencing. You just see things for what they are, without the labels. You're just there. It's like you're getting a peek at what's left when the filter gets turned down a bit. What this suggests is that this filter, this barrier, isn't some fixed wall. It's more dynamic, like a valve that can open and close. Sometimes it needs to be mostly closed, right, to help us focus on our daily tasks. But other times it can open up and let in a much bigger, wider sense of awareness. And all of this leaves us with one last powerful image to think about. The psychologist Carl Jung once wrote something really profound. The mother gave you both entanglement and severing. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's the human condition in a nutshell. Nature, the mother, gives us the brain, this beautiful, complex knot that entangles us in our own little individual lives. But she also gives us the awareness to notice that we're entangled. And maybe, just maybe, that's the key to severing the knot, even just for a moment.